Habang nagkakaedad po ako, unti-unti, namumulat ako na hindi pala lahat ng gawain sa relihiyon ay tungkol sa pagsamba sa Diyos. Kung minsan, ang sinasamba natin ay sarili nating image tungkol sa Diyos. Na imbes na parangalan at papurihan ng Diyos, baka kung minsan sa ating ginagawang pagsamba, ay nilalapastangan natin ang Diyos. Pwede tayong magtayo ng mga templo at i-dedicate ang mga ito sa Diyos. Pero mula sa langit, baka ang nakikita ng Diyos ay mga tore ng Babel, monuments dedicated to human pride and arrogance. Ito yung dumadaloy sa isip ko habang pinagninilayan ko ang mga pagbasa sa araw na ito. Sa Ebanghelyo, si Jesus ay humiram ng salita kay propetang Isaías in order to describe the kind of pietism that was being promoted by the Pharisees. Ang sabi daw ni Prophet Isaiah, itong bayang ito, pinararangalan ako sa kanilang labi, ngunit ang mga puso nila ay malayo sa akin. These people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Isaiah 29 verse 13. Pwede mong palitan yung labi. You can replace the word lips there. And you can still get the same sense. Like, these people honors me with their pious rituals and religious practices and traditions, but their hearts are far from me. Ito yung tinatawag ng mga propeta na walang kabuluhang pagsamba. Pwede pala yun? Pwede pala tayong sumamba, ngunit walang kabuluhan. The prophet speaks about worshipers who look very devout, reverent, and holy. But he says their religion is totally meaningless to God. They can even invoke the faith, but do exactly the opposite of what God is asking of them. Halimbawa, people can be defending the values of unity, fairness, and harmony, but they cannot stand up on the basic principles of truth, honesty, integrity, justice, and respect for life. Akala nila ang relihiyon is just something between them and God, and that it has nothing to do with them and fellow human beings. Some people insist on separating their otherworldly affairs from the concerns of society, the concerns of this world. You know what they call that? False religion. Especially when we think that we can just keep God inside a closet. Sometimes we don't realize how we dishonor God. When we behave like we can put God inside the closet and manipulate God so that God will just do what we want for ourselves. Ang mga parokyano dito, maraming beses na nilang narinig mula sa akin, sa aking mga homily, yung isang analogy na madalas kong gamitin. Nakakita na ba kayo ng isang bata na bumili ng candy, binuksan ng candy, kinain ng balat, tinapon ng laman? Anong tawag sa ganyan? Sometimes, we can behave that way. You unwrap a piece of candy, throw away the content, and eat the wrapper. Believe me, much of what we do in religion is so focused on the fancy wrappings. And we often forget about the essentials of the faith. The prophet Isaiah has often pointed out what he considers as the foolish attitude of many people who think that they are engaged in godly activities. Nako, pakinggan ninyo yung sinasabi niya right at the beginning of the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 1. And if I may abbreviate what the prophet is saying, ang sabi ba naman niya, ano bang pakialam ko sa mga alay ninyo at mga sakripisyo at panalangin? If you cannot even stand up against evil, defend what is right, uphold what is true, if you cannot make justice your aim, redress the wrong, hear the cries of the orphans, and defend the widows. Hindi ko imbento yan. Nasa Isaiah chapter 1, verses 11 to 17. Sa ating first reading, si King Solomon is dedicating the newly constructed temple to God. Nagtayo siya ng magandang templo. But listen to how he dedicated the temple with a very humble prayer. Ang sabi niya, Panginoon, kung ang langit nga, if the heavens themselves cannot contain you, how much less this temple which I have built? That is Solomon's way of saying, I am not in any position to take pride of building a house for you, O my God, because I know you don't even need a house, that you are not even asking for one. I know that this place is not really for you, but for ourselves. It is a place where we could honor you and where we could pray comfortably. Opening pa lang yon. If Isaiah opened his book with these thoughts about the kind of worship that the Lord is asking of us, you'd be surprised when you reach the end of the book. 66 chapters ang book of the prophet Isaiah. And in chapter 66, he says, almost in reply to the prayer of Solomon, sabi ng propeta, ano bang klaseng bahay ang pwede mong itayo para sa akin? Ano bang puok ang pwede mong tawaging tahanan ko? Ako naman ang lumikha ng lahat ng bagay dito sa daigdig. You really believe that you can house God in a temple? God created a whole world as His home. My hand made all these things when they came to be. But He said, this is the kind of worshiper who truly honors me, the one with humble and contrite heart, the one who trembles at my word. That's Isaiah 66, verses 1 to 2. And so, dear brothers and sisters, you see, we cannot claim to be God worshippers and yet behave as if our faith had nothing to do with politics and the way we run our society. That is exactly the kind of religion that the Lord calls vain, meaningless. Kung ayaw nating marinig ang masasakit na salita ng propeta, please lang, huwag nating paghihiwalayin ang pananampalataya at ang ating konkretong buhay, panlipunan dito sa daigdig.